Hello, everyone. My name is Stoy Prioleau, and I know Joey. I've known him for a long time. We grew up together. It just so happened he reached out to me, and once he reached out, I told him right away, absolutely, I would love to have the opportunity to speak to the masses right now at a time like this, coming off of, we're still in a pandemic, actually, and you combine that with the things that are happening, it's like a recipe for destruction. And I would encourage everyone to stay calm and stay positive. I would say tap into that higher power and be your best self when face to face with any type of adversity. But when you have something on a world scale like this, then you really have to dig down and use your resources, use your patience. Use your tools and don't just react. But also, you can't sit back and do nothing.
I actually remember in the 4th grade when I met Stoy for the first time. We were in PE, both of us sitting in a line with our classmates, all of our backs against the wall. And he's sitting right next to me and he says, "Your name, Joey. My name's Stoy." I think that was his way of saying, let's be friends. He probably doesn't even remember that. Guys, for better or for worse, I enjoyed a childhood of being naive about the reality of racism. It was actually a sweet time to just think, we're all okay. We're all treated equal. Friends that I played basketball with, played video games with, walked to school with, was in study groups with. We're all fine. Everything's fine. Unfortunately, though, I maintained my naivety for way too long, and it wasn't until about 7 years ago when I started to really rethink things. A 35-year-old man, all those years in the South, and that's when I started to learn. So one of the greatest honors of doing this podcast has been introducing you to my friends, people I learn from and enjoy conversing with, and that's all this episode is, me introducing you to Black people in my life. I wanted to somehow address what's going on racially in our nation, and I actually couldn't think of a better way to do this other than ask for the thoughts of others. So I didn't give them any guidance on what to say, and I decided beforehand that I would use whatever they sent me. It's their voices, their processing, their convictions. It's the beauty of the human spirit.
Hi everybody, my name's Latoyya Jones, and I've been a friend of Joey's since sophomore year in high school, and I've been part of the Seacoast family for a little over 7 years now. I think that right now there's a definite need for healing in this nation, and I think that policies in the government can't do that for us, because I feel like there's enough rules in place right now that it shouldn't be happening.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Hart. I am a former student of Mr. Svensson, many moons ago. We won't say how many. And he has asked that I give some sort of perspective on recent events that have transpired. You know, this has been going on for years and years prior to events that have transpired recently, years before I was born, before my parents were born. With recent events, I feel like the climate is changing. The Black community is changing, and people are tired. It's honestly, the recent events with George Floyd, with Ahmaud, it's sad to see, but honestly not surprising anymore.
My name is Elizabeth. I'm a friend of Joey and Priscilla's. I'm a biracial Filipino-American, and I'm married to a Black man. The Lord works righteousness and justice for all the oppressed. Psalm 103:6. Will it start with you? This takes work.
I was a very small child during the latter years of Martin Luther King, but the impact of his plight has gained strength in this generation. Never in my lifetime would I have ever thought that I would witness the horrific and blatant acts of racism that is openly displayed. As one who is not a strong proponent of social media, I am so glad for this platform at these moments in history to shed the light that despite our best efforts, our relentless struggles, our push for justice, strong, evil racism still exists. In some way it seemed obscured, hidden, and reports of its raising its head in certain circumstances seemed far-fetched and put off as one race using its ethnicity as an excuse for every wrong done to it. But there is a verse in the Bible that says, "There is nothing covered that will not be revealed, and neither hid that shall not be known." And I thank God that because of this amazing invention of cameras on cell phones and the stage of social media, we are simply exposed to that which was covered, that which was hidden. Life has changed. Despite being born in the 60s, I was not raised as a child taught to know the us versus them mentality. There were no conversations of whites versus blacks. I don't know if my parents had the talk with my brothers, how to conduct yourself around the police. My first best friend was white, and she came to my house carelessly, and I remained totally unthreatened. In this day of interracial everything, from politics to churches, schools, events, from military to marriages, it felt like we had maybe overcome to a place of some form of liberty and justice for all. But behind the curtain, racism, the spirit of the KKK, still loomed and lived. I raised my children like I was raised, to know and love a person for who they are on the inside. I never thought I had to tell my sons, fear the police. Yet, ask them how many times they have been stopped needlessly because of the color of their skin, presumed as drug dealers because they were driving a nice vehicle. Except for the grace of God, my sons are Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd. The demon of racism kills, steals, and destroys. When a modern-day lynching occurs, This hateful spirit has taken more than just a life. It has taken a gift and a purpose also. And when it appears that hate incites hateful responses, thus the looting and the burnings and the riots. It saddens me that another mother, yes, Black mother, has to bury her son needlessly. Another mother has to mourn that she is outliving her child, not due to a sickness or an accident, but because someone didn't like the color of his skin. While she mourns, we as African Americans hurt. We cry. We are expressing our torn hearts at the disgrace that this travesty has not ended. Do I think that burning buildings and looting is the answer? No, I don't. But these acts are an outward expression of an inner cry, a cry that has gone unheard for far too long. When pain is not physical, it gives way to an anger that is blind and destructive. We are not ignorant. Just like us, we know that there are good and bad people in every race. And unselfishly, we want justice for more than just ourselves. It's just my prayer that this opportunity for change isn't missed, and true and honest and painfully needed conversation is started in the places where changes happen. The schools, the churches, and prayerfully, the White House.
Do the videos of Black Americans being murdered disturb you? Anger you? Disgust you? If not, why not? Do you say to yourself, let's wait for the facts, and hope or know that certainly, undeniably, that Black person was doing something wrong? They probably asked for it, right? They didn't comply. They stole something. They said something. They looked scary. They are scary. If so, you have some work to do. We have some work to do, friends.
In this case, we've watched someone get murdered. Like growing up on the projects, I mean, I've seen those type of things. I've seen it with my own eyes. There's a certain level of numbness that comes with growing up in those types of environments.
This is not a bash on police officers. There are good police officers, but as a Black American, you don't know if when you're being pulled over, if that's one of the officers that actually upholds the vows, the duties of to protect and to serve. So that is the scary part about police officers. You don't know if their intentions are protecting and serving everyone and not just certain people.
To see someone die on video is heart-wrenching. I've seen it once and I don't ever want to see it again. And honestly, I heard a pastor say today that if you watch that video and see the life go out of that man, that human and you feel nothing, you feel no empathy, sympathy, you feel nothing, you have to have a heart check.
My name is Kevin Smith. I'm a friend of Joey's, and I was his daughter's principal for her middle school years. And I'm also a black man. This has been a lot to process. Events have brought up and brought back emotions that hit like a hammer and sting like something from a horror movie. I mean, it's scary. Only this is not cinema. It's real life. It's really happening. And I can't make sense of it. But I experience it in a way that I wish I didn't have to. In a way that I wish no one has to or ever had to. I want to have answers for myself, for my son, for my daughter. I mean, for the sake of my own sanity. But I don't. So because I don't have answers, I'll just ask questions and allow myself the space not to feel like I have to have all the answers. But let's start here. See, free people were enslaved and made to work for free for generations. Wait, not for free. They were the ones who paid with everything. I mean, this wasn't like a blip in history. This is centuries. Their labor was tied to the wealth of our country. But when they were legally emancipated, they were to gain their freedom, but their bodies lost value because of their hue and their hair. So do we think somehow this doesn't echo through our present? You see, the 13th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America allows for those who are arrested to be made to labor for free. Sound familiar? So the question is, did we value the freedom or the incarceration of black bodies more? You see, the Supreme Court of the United States of America ruled against the idea of separate but equal. But then it took decades to get some states to follow the ruling of the Supreme Court of the United States of America. Some questions. Are black people treated differently based on their appearance? Are we more likely to be perceived as violent and treated with disproportionate force? Are there systems that exist that punish blackness? Are there systems that can be weaponized against black people in our country? How many pictures and videos do we need to see to believe that black people have been threatened and terrorized before we believe it? What if there were no pictures and no videos? Does it matter when seeing a video or a picture doesn't force us to change? Do black people have a right to protest? Do we have to be told how we can protest when other people don't? Why are black people required to defend or justify their existence? Why do black parents have to forewarn their children of what to do if they're approached by law enforcement and non-law enforcement when they're in public? Do they even have the right to be in public like everyone else? Do we really believe that someone's skin determines their value? Do we treat everyone like they're God's creation? Do we justify our own prejudices? Do we even want to not treat other people differently because of them being who they are? Do we even have the right not to? Should my son have to fear the fear others may have of his appearance? Does he have an obligation to prove he's not a threat? Do I? Does my wife? Does my daughter? Would you want to be treated the way black people are treated? Or do you reject the question because you never would be? Do we even think there's a problem? Do we have enough faith to believe there's a solution? Do we have the strength to work towards it? See, when it's all said and done, sometimes it feels like nothing has been said or done to make the change that needs to be made. Why? Because it feels like we end up where we started. If you don't believe me, ask the loved ones of those we've lost, and we see it in camera. Not just recently, but back to the lynchings and beatings, bombings, and burnings. You see, there's a record. It's not made up. It's real. And we can't pretend it's gone away. At times it may seem like it's a remission, but then it comes back again and again. And we get sick of it, sick and tired of it. We need a cure. So I end my brief interrogation of this moment with this thought from C.S. Lewis. There is no neutral ground in the universe. Every square inch, every split second is claimed by God and counterclaimed by Satan. If we wrestle not against flesh and blood, we don't need to destroy the blood and flesh of the black and brown people specifically, or any people in general. We like to say that we have to love one another, and this is true. I believe that. But it's not the warm and fuzzy love we need now. We need a strong love, one that draws the line at unfair treatment, one that causes us to look inward first and interrogate our thinking, and then to act according to what is right and not what's comfortable. We need God's love. We need a love with a hard edge.
My name is RadhiYah Simmons, and I'm a former student of Mr. S. I'll be reading an original poem called LWB, Living While Black. From the moment I found out about you, I prayed for you, because the only thing harder than birthing a son is raising a black one. Your life was already decided by the tone of your mother's skin, so damn the equality, because for us it don't mean a thing. Friends and family gather to celebrate your baby shower while the government gathers to plan your fate down to the hour. Predestined lives you and other black boys are given. It's getting so horrific I'm afraid to see you living, cause I fear you dying. Once you're able to walk and talk, you qualify to be chosen. They limit your options even with the degree you may end up holding. All you good for is a bullet, football, or basketball. Your true potential lays lifeless cause they pray for your downfall. My son, I pray life treats you kind. My son, don't let the system control your mind. Prove them wrong and become everything they deemed you couldn't. I just pray in the process you don't fall victim to the bullshit. From the womb they came after you, and to my grave I will protect you. Because the only thing harder than birthing a son is raising a black one.
Hey guys, I'm Mikel Simmons. I'm good friends with Joey. We actually go to the same church, work for the same church, and I'm here to tell you guys, just, people are asking, why are they rioting and setting stuff on fire? Do I think this type of rioting is right? Not exactly, but here's something to think about. Imagine an incident in 2020 that reflects incidents from the 1900s. It's been over 100 years and the same type of racial injustice is going on. People are tired, people are angry, and people want to stop. And I'm angry.
Hi, I'm Marcie Walton. My husband and I are friends with Joey and his wife Priscilla. We're also blessed to be a part of the church that Joey pastors. I'm married to a black man. I love him so much it's disgusting. Some believe that when you get to heaven, marriage won't be a thing, but it will be for me and Jamal. I told him if he beat me there, I was going to find him immediately after I see my Savior. With the recent deaths of Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd, I can't help but share that we have to do better in having conversations with our white family members. Change starts at the dinner table. I grew up in a small town with zero diversity. When I went to school at any level, everyone looked like me. There was no reason to have conversations in school or at home about people who looked different than me. People from my hometown asked what it was like to be dating a black man. I was asked, "So I hear you are dating," by the dad of a girl I grew up with. I was shocked. I wanted to literally punch him in the face. I was told it was going to be harder being in an interracial marriage. Why? I don't get it. For my small town friends and family, start having conversations with your children about people of different races and backgrounds. Be around people who are different than you. If you don't know where to start, ask for help. Change starts at the dinner table. I didn't think twice about certain things until I married Jamal. When we were planning for a road trip to Atlanta, Jamal was mapping out a route that would avoid small towns at night. I asked him why, and he said, "As a black man, I don't want to be driving at night in those areas with you in the car." 4 blocks from where my husband works, a white man walked into a church and blatantly killed 9 black people during Bible study in 2016. If you don't know this story, look up Dylan Roof, Charleston, South Carolina. As a white person who genuinely just loves people, we can do our part by having conversations at our dinner tables with our kids. Let them ask questions about people who look different from them and find ways for them to interact with kids who look different from them. If you don't know what to do, start there. We have to find joy in Jesus. Not all cops are bad. Not all white people are racist. change starts at the dinner table. Until then, I'll punch your face if you look at my husband cross-eyed.
My husband has to think twice about going for a walk, wearing a hoodie, his hair, the way he walks, the way he talks. I get scared about him driving. Now I'm scared about him jogging, walking, being anywhere in public. Did you know that?
And then the George Floyd incident happened. A clear case of racism. And that's all the way across the board. It's not just in Minnesota. That happens in Texas. That happens in Louisiana. That happens all over this world. There's racism, and I think it's time we start putting those people in a category, and you have to help them. Like they need help, because it's just a matter of ignorance.
I fortunately have 3 daughters. I don't have any sons. But there are Black women that are being killed as well. It does not happen as frequently as our Black males, but it does happen to our Black females. But it does make me fearful for my husband. It makes me fearful for my dad, my brother, my cousins, friends. My husband is a big, stocky Black male. Used to play football. He's currently in the military. And, I fear that, he may be in the right place at the right time, but the wrong person there. And I intentionally said right place at the right time, because you don't have to be in a wrong place. You don't have to be anywhere at the wrong time. You could be going for a jog. You could be going to get something to eat. You don't have to be in a bad environment, a bad situation, for bad things to happen to you.
When I first started dating my husband, my cousin asked me if she needed to get a shotgun to meet him. She was 14 years old. Someone taught her that. When I was a freshman in high school, my English teacher taught us as a class that marrying outside of your race was wrong. I, among my peers, learned that as a biracial child, I was wrong to her. I almost believed her. These things are taught.
Hi, I'm Robbie Madison. I'm very close friends with Joey Svensson, and we work together, and he asked me to respond with my thoughts and my feelings about the recent events that have been happening in our culture. And here's my response. They don't hear me. They don't understand. They say I'm making it up. Have they been where I've been? They tell me to just deal with it. Don't say too much. Don't be too quiet. Keep your hands where I can see them. Broken taillight is not just a broken taillight. It's a potential death sentence. Red lights in my rearview mirror. I wish it was as simple as a yes, sir, and a compliant spirit. Will I get a ticket? Will I ever see my wife and kids after tonight? Will I see my mother, father, brother, and sister again? Should I stay? Should I run? All my white friends say to follow the rules because authority can be trusted. They say my fear is not real. Will they say that if I die? If I die, will they keep quiet? Will they stand for me? Or will they still choose not to believe? Will they step in and take care of my wife and kids who lost their husband and father? Just stay and talk to the police officer. It probably won't be that bad. Get out of the car. Put your face against the ground. Hands where I can see them. The 4 officers search my car for the suspicion of drugs and find nothing and send me on my way with a ticket for the broken taillight and no apologies. Let me go for a run and clear my mind. After 5 minutes, I notice a truck is following me with a gun in the window. I run faster. I'm running away. I'm trapped by another truck with guns just ahead, pointed at me, blaming me for a crime that is not proven. In this moment, I am to be met with death by the men with the hearts of murderers. I buy groceries today because my family was in need. The store got suspicious of me, that I was using faulty money, so they call the cops on me and I can't get away or get home. I'm met by 4 cops, pinning me to the ground. Where is my trial? Where's the questioning? Does my word mean nothing? I can't breathe. His knee is in my neck. I've tried to be a good person. I've tried to stay under the radar, but they look at me. They look for me. I tell them I can't breathe, and they respond, "This is why you don't do drugs." You don't even know my name. How do you assume that I have a drug problem and that I forge checks? I really can't breathe now. Everything is getting faint. Please tell my son and daughter I love them. I don't think I'm ever going to see them again. I need someone to protect them. The ones I believed would protect them are killing me right now. There's no more hope for me. What do you say to these atrocities such as these? The truth is, there's so much that needs to be said. There's so much that needs to be heard. It is hard to find the words, and each word that leaves my mouth, many of you are judging anyway. I try to have a conversation with my friends, and they say those people had it coming. Can you believe that bullcrap? I try to open their minds, and they blame it on the media. I kindly ask them if they ever saw a white man abused or killed by cops, and they say no. They rebut, asking me if a media imbalance warrants riots. Everyone's talking about riots. Why are we talking about riots more than we talk about the humans that have been treated like animals? Why are we pretending that that is okay, to treat people this way, and to tell them to shut up about it? Would you rather we go back to a time when you could punish people for stating an opinion? Do you actually believe that humans should have the right to express sadness, anger, frustration? You cling to your psychology and counseling sessions that you tell that it's natural to go through the stages of grief, but when someone tells you that they're angry and hurting and afraid, you push them, you punish them. You don't try to hear them. You try to quiet them and tell them it's all made up in their heads. Have you ever been afraid that the justice system designed to protect you may have a target on your back? Lucky you. Try telling that to that 15-year-old who saw his brother pulled out of a public restaurant for fitting the description of a drug dealer. Tell that to the husband of a mixed wife who had cops shining lights into his car to ask his wife if she's okay. Or how about the rich corporate types who buy drugs from young black men and never even see a consequence, while the young black man trying to make ends meet gets targeted and locked in jail while he is being taken advantage of by people who enjoy true freedom. Dylan Roof killed 9 people, and for the longest time was treated with a lack of severity. George Floyd was thought to have forged a check and was suffocated to death. Yet you say there's no imbalance in the justice system. You think it's okay for a black man to be killed for the possibility of a crime, but you also think it's okay for the cop that murdered him to be released from his job with a severance package. There is an imbalance, and it's in your mind. You're okay when I sing for your special moments. You're okay listening to jazz, rock, hip-hop, fusion, gospel, but you don't support the heart that created the stories that the rhythms characterize. We feel used for our talents, despised for our grievances, discredit for our contributions, and afraid to shine. You're okay with my art, but you're not okay with my struggle. You use me for your own therapy, but I can't lean on you for my own. Therein lies another imbalance. We just have to open up our eyes and recognize it. You tell us that we have the same opportunities that you have, yet you're not hiring us for the same positions. Is it okay to leave it to someone else and just close your eyes until everything is all better?
I don't wanna die, but I refuse to be scared.
And we need to talk about it more. Silence is the enemy, and that's what we need to fight right now. We need to dig into our hearts and see if there is any issues with race, and it could be black hating whites. Like, we need to figure out why that is. How can we change it? Where do we start? And we need to start talking about it as a church. And a church, then out to the community, and then community out to the world. There is no other option.
My mind always tried to solve and find the solution to the problem. And the solution is definitely not fighting and picking a side, because that's what's allowed it to continue to go on and on.
We're all created equal. We're all human. And we can say that we don't see color, but color is what makes us. The color shouldn't matter, but the color is definitely there. There's no need to not tell truths. And that's a truth. I mean, if Crayola can make a 24 pack of shades of skin, and it's honestly every shade of brown that you can think of, that's evident that that's just who we are, what we are, and the change in heart is going to make the difference.
Will your family think and speak this way? If you are not actively fighting against this, actively teaching otherwise, it's a default in this country. Ask yourself the hard questions. Would I include the words big black in a whisper when describing a scary man that walked by me at night? Do I know what white privilege is? Do I know what systemic racism means? What am I digesting? Do I only read books by white people? Only listen to white preachers? White speakers? White Instagram influencers? Only have white friends? Only know white families?
Hello everyone, my name is Royston. I'm a student studying at McGill University in Quebec, Canada. I've known Joey pretty much my entire life, since I was born. He's the husband to my mom's friend, and he asked me to basically give my emotions on the Black Lives Matter and anti-racism movement that's going on currently. It's kind of funny, I had already pre-written an excerpt a few days ago, so I just thought maybe this is the perfect opportunity for me to go ahead and read it out myself. If you know me, you know I didn't used to be politically active, and that's because I was surrounded by multiple people who let their political standing judge their actions instead of the other way around. I found that it was rather closed-minded, and I let it stop me from getting involved. It's hard to involve yourself in a conversation when people aren't willing to listen and would rather be closed-minded, but I'm finally, genuinely ready to be involved now. For the first time in my life, I found myself in a position where I'm no longer able to maintain my silence concerning matters surrounding racism and discrimination. There are some of you that don't see the urgency and importance of movements such as Black Lives Matter, or simply unconcerned by the politics of Black Lives Matter or Black people due to your positionality as people who identify as non-Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Others of you do want to help, but are unsure of your capacity to do so. But by sitting back and letting others handle it, you're minimizing the issue. What you must realize is that in your silence, you become complicit in these acts of violence. This is to say, your silence is actually a fundamental part of the problem. There's no formula to fixing something that our world has worked centuries to create, such as systemic racism. But if you simply ignore the key issue and only react to the results, such as burning buildings that are going on, then it shows you don't truly understand. But that's what getting involved in topics such as this one is all about. You need a desire to be educated on these topics so that you can take action so we are all able to move towards a change together. We're not all raised the same way. We go through different processes to understand things such as racism and how to get involved despite not being Black. So it can be difficult to find a way that you can connect to the subject. However, if you're listening to this, it's very likely that you're in connection with a minority who is hurting because of the recent events. If you love those people and want to see the world progress in a positive manner, you'll reach out to me or other Black people you know to understand how these acts of terrorism against our community affect us, even if we're not the individuals against whom these acts have been directed. If you're not sure how you can help, simply ask. Use this time to really reflect on the severity of these events and the reasons for your silence. If you don't feel anything towards it, then yeah, I guess you could consider it kind of messed up, and it shows that you don't care about people dying around you. But if you know me, and you love those who look like me, then you should at least feel some form of anger towards how an event like this can affect the people you love, such as me, and you should desire to see a solution. Also know that as a Caucasian person, you're in a position of privilege which puts you at a great advantage when it comes to advocating for change, so use this privilege for good. You're all responding to the COVID-19 issue simply because it's much more heavily publicized and affected not just Black people, but I still encourage you to connect that type of passion to this topic of hate crimes in the lives of someone who looks like me. You should want to see these murderers handled strictly and seek resolution. Stop scrolling through your phones, getting annoyed at the repetitive posts focused on the same issue. Get involved. Do what you can do. Open your eyes. There's a reason you're seeing all of these posts. Talk to me, talk to your friends, and talk to at least someone, and stop avoiding the problem. Having everyone get involved is pretty important to me, and it definitely will lead to change. So I hope this inspires you to do so. It'll mean a lot to the Black community and also to me. Thank you.
And I don't want to cry, but I'm afraid it might help.
They need help because it's just a matter of ignorance. Because no one really wants to hate. No one really wants to hate. That is a type of energy that drains you. It takes away from you being your best self.
I'm sad that the riots are going on. Doesn't bring anything. Brings a bad look on what people are really trying to protest for those who are trying to be peaceful. So I pray those stop. There's many more. There's worse things that we've been able to protest in love and get our point across. And just this right now that's going on in Charleston is definitely supporting what Dylan and Ruth tried to do years ago, and he's happy about it.
Because we're tired of this cycle. It keeps repeating itself, and it's repeating itself because we're going at it doing the same thing. So now we got to come together, and young, Black, white, old, everybody. We just got to come together and go at this thing, and don't allow this to be quiet. Don't allow this to go be swept under the rug.
There's a story to each side, and we need to start telling stories, but more than that, hearing stories. We need to be open. We're never gonna agree on everything, and that's not gonna change, because it's part of being human and different, and it's the beauty of it.
all of my fears coming after me.
Hi, my name is Jason Farr. I am an old college friend of Joey's, and I am a black man born and raised in South Carolina, but I now live in Brooklyn, New York. He asked me to speak on what is going on with these nationwide protests, and it's a tough thing to talk about, not only because of the emotional nature of the subject matter, but also because it is so multi-layered and there's so much to it, and it goes back to the start of our nation. Systemic racism it's been a fabric of our nation since its inception, and that's an unfortunate reality. And now we have protests. Many are peaceful. Some turn violent. Some are full-on riots. And people are saying, why are they rioting? Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said in the 60s that rioting is the language of the unheard. And we have gone unheard for centuries. But let's try to just stick with modern history, because there's too much to talk about just for the last 10 years. But in the 60s, we had sit-ins. That was one language we were using. What did they do? The authorities turned hoses on black people. Sit-ins. Even more recently, Colin Kaepernick, he was kneeling. When did you kneel? Right? When were you down on one knee? When you were proposing? That's what he was doing. He was proposing something. And people lost their minds over that. He was racist. He was this. He was that. Kick him out of the league. Kick all of them out of the league. Get them all out of there. That's what even our president was saying about people kneeling. We have exhausted our languages. Voting. History shows, it's very well documented, how people try to suppress the black vote. I mean, every single way we have tried to speak to you, we have gone unheard. Martin Luther King was assassinated. One of our greatest speakers, who used language so eloquently to speak and so peacefully to be heard. And he was assassinated. Why are people rioting? We're angry. We've been angry. From the very beginning, we were treated like property. We were property. People had to be forced to not have slaves anymore. And then there was segregation and Jim Crow laws. And my parents were adults when they got their civil rights. And even after that, it's not like everyone just said, okay, you can come to our school. It's fine. People still tried to push black people away and keep them away. There is no language we've been able to use where people just heard us. So we're angry. We're exhausted. We're tired. We're resilient, so we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop trying to be heard. But there's so many people angry about the rioting and angry about the kneeling. Why don't you get angry about what we're angry about? Get angry about what we're angry about, and then maybe it'll change. And you won't have to worry about it anymore if you want to be selfish about it. I'm fed up. In regards to these riots, it's not happening over any one thing, but also there's so much going on. People on the ground, the organizers in these cities who started peaceful protests, they don't recognize, so they're sharing things on social media and they're saying, I don't recognize some of the people here. And it's those people they don't recognize who were starting this stuff. We don't know what is going on. right now. And so there's not really a lot I can say to that. The dust is going to have to settle before we know what's going on. It looks like there's some far left people showing up who just hate cops. And there's some far right people who want to discredit the protests. I saw a video today of a white man going to a peaceful protest, getting out of his car, yelling, "All lives matter," and then pulling out a bow and arrow and trying to kill somebody, trying to shoot. He shot into the crowd, and people rightfully protected themselves. He got beat up. He goes on the local news and he says, "I got beat up by 2 black men just because I said out of my car window, 'All lives matter.'" He left out that he tried to shoot them with a bow and arrow. He left out that before the video I saw, he tried to stab somebody. He left out that it was white people who were beating him and not 2 black men. He left all that out. So we can't look at the rioting and the violence that's happening right now with fresh eyes because we don't know what we're seeing. We don't know what's going on. Some people with some ulterior motives are showing up and discrediting all of this. And it's just yet another language that we have tried to use to be heard. I think it's way past time that people start listening.
Applaud the blessed and highly favored. Now turn and say that to your neighbor. Return and give thanks to the Savior. I know I'm promised to see him later.
So it's not going to fix overnight. We have a tendency to want things to happen right now when we want it. That's this day and age, and we want quick results. So we put forth an effort. We go hard for 7 days, and then it's like, okay, back to business as usual. Don't let this man die in vain.
Unity can only start by hearing and listening to every voice. The voice of the oppressed is a good start, so listen. This takes work, but people's lives are literally counting on you doing this work. Humility comes first. You are privileged. Educate yourself. Will it start with you?
Somebody needs to step up and start showing the way. Don't know who that is. I don't really care who it is as long as somebody does it and we all join on.
When you as a non-black person fail to not only see but admit that there is a problem, you are a part of the problem. Until the dynamics of perspectives change of non-black Americans, honestly, nothing's going to change. I'm sure when my girls get older, we'll probably still be fighting the exact same thing that's going on now. And the fear of saying Black Lives Matter, a lot of people say, well, all lives matter. Of course, all lives matter. When we say Black Lives Matter, it does not mean only Black Lives Matter. It means there is an issue with Black lives right now. So, example, I have 3 children. I love all of them the same. They have my whole heart. But there may come a time, they're still young now, but there may come a time when my oldest is a teenager and, you know, she starts to date and she's going through a broken heart. At that moment, that child needs more of my attention than the others. Does not mean I love them any less. It does not mean I love her more. It means that right now she needs more of my attention because of what's going on in her life at the moment. Black Lives Matter is the same thing. We're not saying no one else matters. We're saying right now there is an issue with Black lives. So we need to figure out a resolution to what is happening to our Black lives in this moment. Were white Americans who were upset with Colin Kaepernick when he kneeled during the national anthem at football games as a silent protest to Black Lives Matter. Many people said it was disrespectful to the flag. It's disrespectful to our military. One, my husband is military. He is also a Black American. And military people, regardless of what branch, do not fight for a flag. They do not fight for a national anthem. They fight for the freedom of every single person that lives in this country. People, not flags, not materialistic things. The people of the United States. A peaceful protest, not being disrespectful. That's not disrespectful to the military. The military fight for our freedom, regardless of what that freedom may be. So if his freedom of speech is to kneel silently, not being disrespectful, that was not an insult. What people failed to realize was that, honestly, when they look back at it, it wasn't about disrespect to the flag. It was about why he was kneeling. It wasn't about the kneeling. It was why he was kneeling. Because guess what? It wasn't important to them. The issue was not important. We, as a Black community, see all, and we take notes. So all of our white associates, white friends, white classmates, old classmates, we're taking note. We see who has spoken out, who has shown support, who has even shown the interest in wanting to listen and listening to understand, not listening to respond with, but listening to understand our side of the story. We can never fully explain how it feels to be Black in America, but even the slightest notion of listening to understand, we're watching and we're taking notes. On Facebook, I have many friends who, if they're a post of, the adoption of pets, and they show pictures of pets that have been abused and neglected, and lots of people, throw those disgusting people in jail. They deserve jail time, and this and that. Those poor dogs. But those same people, you never see them open their mouths when they're a post of another Black American being killed. So in my eyes, I feel like you see Black Americans as less than dogs. You care more about that dog being killed and the person who did that to that dog being taken into justice and receiving consequences of their actions. But you never open your mouth about a life, a human life. That speaks volumes.
Don't allow this type of behavior to go on in your communities. Don't allow this type of behavior to go on around you in your circle. I challenge you to continue to fight until you're no longer on this earth, and hopefully your legacy or whatever you leave behind will continue that fight for you.
So understand it. Those in need to believe it. Plant that seed, now watch it speed it. No dirt, no weeds, no sloth or greed. Bend those knees and pray with me. Grant me the strength that I need to proceed. I've humbled my pride to follow your lead.
All we gain from you.
It's time for everybody to come together. You come together and you form one, and then you go at the negativity. And when we do that, I promise you that things will change. It's not going to be overnight, though. It's not going to be overnight. It's going to take a collective effort from the masses. Not Black, not white, We talking everybody. The world's got to come together, and I'm looking at the news now, and you can see that it's happening.